on who to fund.
Yeah. I like the idea of leaving it flexible. I just remember we had matching requirements in the
We
past.
did. The last go around there was matching requirements.
What I've seen with your NOFAs in the past is they get so locked down and you get yourself pushed into a corner that it makes it very difficult for people to apply. I mean, some of the NOFAs that honestly, and not to be derogatory of the committee or anything like that, have been so technical. I've applied for federal grants that didn't require as much information as these SBF ones, and it just, I think it pushes people away because you're normal person who is not a grant writer or doesn't work in this arena all the time is put off by a lot of the questions that you just don't know the answers to. If you're normally filling out grants, you know what they're looking for, but if you're not, it kind of frightens people away. So I think leaving it open and then looking at those when they come in is probably a better avenue to go, and it doesn't put you into quite as much of a corner.
To comment on that, it takes a genius to take something simple or complicated and make it simple, but any old moron can take something simple and make it complicated. So
I'm not sure how to take that, but thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, Eric C. is requesting to speak.
Great, Mr. C., you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just a couple of comments. One, I mentioned this at the last meeting. Just wanted to reiterate it. There was a reference to doing a study. Well, just wanted to remind everyone that we do have the Feather River conceptual plan, and I would recommend that as part of the NOFA process that the public be provided with a link, or first of all, let them know that it exists, but also with an easy to access way to get to that plan, because the whole intent of that plan was to come up with a bunch of conceptual ideas that people could then could move forward with. So it might provide some good guidance to someone that's looking to do something in the area. The other comment I had was regarding the water temperatures. Just touching on what Sunny had mentioned. Yes, that is true. There are some upcoming new regulatory requirements that are going to lower the temperature in the Feather River by 2 degrees through the town of Oroville. That's a regulatory requirement. It was part of the settlement agreement package, and it's also in our Federal Endangered Species Act permit that will trigger once the new license is issued. So, right now we do have a biological opinion, a federal permit that requires a certain temperature range, and once the new license is issued, it is going to lower down a few degrees.
Great.
Actually, to be specific, it's going to lower 4 degrees at the fish hatchery and 2 degrees down at the lower end of the low flow channel.
Okay. Do you have any, want to stay on track with this item, is there any more comments or any comment you may have on this, Mr. C., as far as the NOFA?
I don't. Just the main thing was just to remind everyone that we have that conceptual plan, and
right.
Hopefully it'll be helpful for people.
Thank you. Sean, did you have something you want to say in regards to this?
Given the limited amount of this funding and the idea that it may not work well for river-related projects that are well needed.
Could you move your mic? There you go.
Given the limited amount of funding that's available and the idea that it may not go to the river projects that are so well needed, might the committee consider keeping that available for the quality projects that are ongoing now that require additional funding? I had given an update at our last meeting that we'd have bids for the Nelson Pool project soon. We had those last week. Came in about $89,000 over budget. Our district is still putting in that extra $100,000 through impact fees that I mentioned before, and considering another $300,000 loan to help cover the rest of whatever we can to make that project whole. But we'd still like the committee to consider any additional funding they can put towards the project. I mentioned before the trail project is on track to barely meet the needs it has, but there's potential for that to overrun as well. I don't know if there's any other existing projects that need additional funding or that may down the road, but I remember when the idea of what was left in this fund last year when it was first brought up, and it may have been Bob Marciniak, I can't remember who, someone at that time had said that it's not really that much money and we should consider leaving it around to make it available for these existing projects. So just something else I'd like you to consider. Thank you.
sir. Committee Member Pittman?
Yeah, and part of the response to that is, your projects at the Nelson Pool would be within the red or salmon colored area that I mentioned here, so you certainly would have a good standing for that as a project to complete and finish. That's a great idea.
Committee Member Brent?
Our board last night took a stand to make the Nelson pool project complete. Fencing, everything that wasn't in the budget to do it. It's going to be done.
Good.
It'd be nice to have help. We feel the project meets the needs of the community. It is the primary warm water swimming pool in the entire Oroville area. Some people judge our city by it, and we keep trying to scrape it down. Sean did everything he could, put demolition out to bid to get a lower bid. We got a low bid. I questioned the low bid. Chuck questioned the low bid, but we saved money doing it. We got it demolished. And now the bids are in. And we said, whatever it takes. The community deserves it. It's needed. It's a worthwhile project. And come hell or high water, we're going to put the pool in right. We're not going to do it shorthanded. And it'd be wonderful if this committee would stand behind it and provide the shortage that exists there. But something maybe could be considered.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Committee Member Reynolds?
I believe this project is one that falls under the prevailing wage, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
And this committee has already, how much have we given towards this project?
750.
750? And what was that was the original bid, wasn't that to cover the whole project to begin with?
Yes.
No, the project was always meant to have a match from the district. So
okay.
The current match is $350,000, so it's a $1.1 million budget, including consultant fees. So with the demolition bid, the complete build-out bid, consultant fees, we're currently $89,000 over. That's without putting in the slide and the floating play equipment and a set of bleachers. So the additional funding would be to help cover those items with some other funding from the district as well.
I believe that the reason why these prices went up was because the project took so long to get going, and I remember hearing that we just couldn't get to getting this done, or we had a lot going on or something along those lines, and that's prices going up.
If I could just jump in here, we need to really stick with the agendized item, which is the NOFA, not the review of the current ongoing project. This sounds to me like an eligible project that could apply using the same application with an addendum to that. So I just want to make sure that we stay on track with what's agendized, because we're steering kind of way out into the weeds here.
We are. Thank you for that. So would you, and thank you, Sean. It's
You're welcome.
a conversation we can continue to be had about the pool there, but it falls within, if there's a request for funds and, put together bleachers, and this is how it can be a benefit to the community and all that, they're definitely open door to apply for it. But I, for one, would like to see it to be put out, and obviously, if you want to apply for some of that, then
Please do.
you definitely have permission to freedom to do that.
Okay. And just to clarify, my point was to not have a NOFA and to keep this funding
Right.
for
Right.
projects now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Any more comments? I see, Mr. Fowler, did you have something that you?
Oh, I did, but he brought me back.
Your mic's muted.
Is it not on?
There you go.
Okay. You know, we had an excellent board meeting for the Feather River Recreation Park District yesterday, and I think I've said this to this committee before. I'm truly blessed to be on a board of our standing. We get along, we can debate, we can disagree, and it's golden. I've never seen that since I've moved here in '03 when I walked in these chambers, and Bob Sharkey, you yourself, Mr. Pittman, Art Hatley, Susan, Sue Corkin, and the mayor, who eludes me for the moment.
Linda.
You know, I thought I got here at the right time. I thought, wow, things are going to pop. 2 years later, the FERC was signed, and nothing happened. And whatever money we got, people fought over nickels and dimes, and it was squandered, in my opinion, for the most part. And the river's been neglected. It was treated like an ugly stepchild. It's wrong. We have very little funding left. The thing I hear from the public, and it doesn't matter if it's city or Feather River or county, they couldn't tell you the difference most of the time. They just want to see these projects done. The city and the park district and the county has started, and the state have done many projects, and then they don't complete them. And they go to waste. Let's finish what we started. I love the city of Oroville. I think you guys are walking right in the same line of golden days where we're going to achieve things, and we are. I haven't seen this before. I'm excited. I want to keep this momentum going. And the public wants to see things completed. So I hope everybody stays in that spirit.
Good.
Any more comments on this item? With that, looking for a motion?
I'll make the motion to move this NOFA law as agenda size at I believe the $200,000 amount with no matching funds in the initial requirement, and the guidance that we're looking for a project along the salmon-colored area in our priority map.
I'll second that.
Sally.
Gotta push the green button. There you go.
Motion carries with 5 yeses and 0 nos.
Great. At this point, going to call for agenda items from this committee. Any potential or future agenda items that wish to be put on the agenda?
I have one that is be an agenda item and/or request. As it happens, there's some interest in the Clay Pit State Vehicle Recreation Area that we have just a border in the city out off of Larkin Road. And what I'd like to do is send a letter of support for that project to move forward from the SBF to the state parks. Is it Matt Teague? Would be the one to send, to let them know that the public here in Oroville is very interested in seeing that project move forward. The reason I'm mentioning this, there's some attention toward that park by the Oroville Dam Oversight Committee, and there's a planned presentation coming in the near future, and it might be great for us to have a letter of support for that project to move forward. There's a general plan in place. The money was allocated by a state OVHV fund. There's some other things to get done there, but it would be good for us locally to say we'd like to see that project move forward. Just a letter of support from this committee, officially composed by staff, sending it to Matt Teague at State Parks so that they know that we want to see that project move forward. It's about 200 acres of the clay pit is ready to be improved upon. It's already being used to some extent, but again, like Sonny says, it could be a hell of a lot better than it is now. And that I think we'd all like to see done. So I'm just asking for a letter of support from this body.
I'd be in favor of that.
So would I.
Any other future agenda items?
I'm in a queue.
Oh, committee member Reynolds.
Bringing up state parks, I would also like to see this board in support of the boat drags out at the South Forebay that is managed by the state parks. We've got a lot of interest in, we used to have this out there, and now in trying to get some activities going in this community again, we ran into some, well, they went from speed bumps to brick walls. Apparently there was a meeting out there the other day with some state parks representatives, and they want a 3,000 lineal foot fence put up to protect fairy shrimp or something that was never been there before. So I would like to see this board support moving forward with that, because in my opinion, something that's been, the precedence has been set. These activities have taken place out there, they did for years, and now they didn't happen for, I don't know, what it's been, 15, 20 years, 25 years, I don't know. Now it's all bad, it's all gonna be ruined if anybody goes out there. There's hardly anybody that goes out there now. I, for one, would like to see these parks utilized. I think we're putting so many restrictions on them that people are turned off and turned away. So I would like to see this board support the boat races out at the South Forebay.
I would also be in favor of that.
And more access. What they've done in the diversion pool is they've made new trails, and those are good, but then they haven't tried to enhance the access off Lakeland Boulevard to get people onto the trail, and the old Long Bar area where there were two gates you could go to off Long Bar, and you can't go, and one of them, they took the gate out. The gate was a bar, a swinging bar, dug a big pit and piled up mud. And that was a road that went down to where there used to be the river crossing at the end of Long Bar. And it's a road down a beautiful draw with a beautiful pond. And maybe part of the reason is the gal had pit bulls and things and lived right at the end. Kind of got into war with the equestrians, and she claimed they poisoned 23 of her animals, but the state made it so the county doesn't maintain that road. It's a county road down to the state park, and now there's just no access there. And the road going the other way has deteriorated so you can't drive down to where the gate is. But open the parks up. We want people to get to the parks and use the parks. That diversion pool is such a beautiful, pristine area that is so underutilized that it's wonderful for me, because I know how to get in there, and I can go there and fish and hike and enjoy myself. But most people are totally unaware of what's there. I actually walked from the railroad bridge to the diversion pool on the railroad tracks 20 years ago in 11 minutes. It's that far from town.
Yeah.
Nobody knows it.
Yeah. Miss Aaron, did you want to speak on that for a minute? Mr. Wright.
Sir? Aaron Wright, California State Parks. Just to address the Lakeland, that might be more of an Eric C. question. That's not part of the state park system. So the Lakeland access is not our area. Within farther down, it is in the diversion pool, but that area is not ours. My understanding, just offhand, is that was mainly due to homeless issues. But that would be, like I said, I would talk to Eric because I know I've heard projects being talked about in that area. And then just to kind of go back to Mayor Reynolds' comment, we at State Parks completely support the drag boat races. However, we don't have staff to completely organize and put on an event of that magnitude. We will completely support the organizer, and I know one of the questions out of that meeting, and I was not at that meeting at South Forebay recently, was they were switching managers because the person that was trying to coordinate it was not following through with the request. As far as the environmental concerns, that's something we can address and we can look at mitigating, but that was the concern with the fencing from my understanding. But the biggest headache or biggest hurdle on this project so far to do that, and we completely support it, is just getting somebody to organize the event. Because the requests, when we've met with them, and we've been meeting with them for almost 2 years now, it's basically they want us to organize the whole event, and they're not. Some of their requests aren't realistic. They want to put T-posts into the canals, and those are things that we're trying to explain to them. It's a very complicated event. The sheer size of the event is I think it'd be a great thing for the community. We want to see it, but we don't have the resources right now with everything else going on to dedicate them to advertise, to coordinate, to bring everybody in. That needs to be on the event, and we will support them as they get that project going.
I understand that, and I don't believe I've met you personally yet, but I would like to meet you, and I would like to meet with you.
Yeah, please.
If that's possible.
Anytime, sir.
Okay, before you leave, I'll give you a card, and thank you.
Was there any other questions with State Parks while I'm here for anybody here?
One question I did have at the South Forebay and maybe even the Wilbur Road, is there any plans to improve the beach areas at those places? Because I know some people have been using the beaches there and they kind of lack a little bit of sand. I don't know if that's improvement plans or not.
For the South Forebay, we haven't talked about bringing in sand at that location. Wilbur Road is part of the Afterbay, but we have been bringing in new ramadas and really developing that area. I know the biggest project on our list right now is looking at putting in more restrooms, because that's one of the areas that we see a deficiency in.
Yeah.
Since COVID has hit, that area has exploded. And we've been adding new ramadas for the last 3 or 4 years because it's become so popular, especially for the locals.
And that's the thing I'm getting. A lot of locals enjoy the South Forebay.
Yeah.
It's just that little sand area would be a nice improvement for the small kids.
We can definitely look into that. That's not one I think we've talked about yet, though.
That's cool. Thank you.
Could you explain to me where that's at?
Well, at the South
Nick
Forebay,
Rand.
right next to the boat ramp, there's a half moon set up there that used to have sand beach on it. And it slopes off very nice to have a sandy beach, and it's right where he's talking about the ramadas and that are.
What's a ramada?
It's basically like a shelter, so it keeps you protected during the sun. So you can have time with your family. There's usually a barbecue pit right there with a picnic table.
Sheltered picnic table, how's that?
There you go.
At the end of Grand.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But there's a lot of people that are using that now that never knew it was there, and that's a
Correct.
great activity. Plus, the water is the same stable level, so it doesn't change, and having beach area there for the small kids would be a great thing. I believe it's kind of cordoned off by some large wood posts, if I remember right.
I'm not sure. We
Yeah.
have talked about putting a swim line in there, though.
Yeah, swim line, basically, yeah.
That
that'd be
doesn't have
great.
one yet, but we have talked about that.
Yeah.
But as far as bringing sand, I think it's a great idea. We haven't talked about that, though.
Yeah.
It's worked great at Riverbend. Man, I walk down there often now and see so many families utilizing that sandy beach.
Yeah.
Just absolutely what we envisioned when these things were built.
And we do that at North Forebay, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it was never on the radar
Yeah.
for at South Forebay. So that's a good thing to look into.
Might be because I know more people are using South Forebay.
Yeah.
I've had many people comment about it, so. Cool, thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairperson, Eric C. is requesting to speak again.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, could I just remind everybody, this is about future council agenda items. We're again straying from the agenda. And if we could just stick with that.
I can go back on.
I think we're so excited to get out of here that we're like, hey, we have time to talk now. Committee member C, and then committee member, actually not committee member, Mr. C from DWR, and then committee member Brent.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just to touch on what Aaron had prompted me about the Lakeland Boulevard Trailhead. There is an upcoming project. When the new FERC license is issued, that's actually one of the places that's going to receive improvements. There's going to be a road that will be punched into the shoreline of the diversion pool, and improvements will be made at that location. We actually have a upcoming construction project that's gotten held up by FERC for some other reasons, but if that project comes through, it's actually going to punch the road in for us. And so we've been advocating that pretty strongly, at least, kind of internally on the recreation side. So we actually may get a road even before the new FERC license is issued. But in any event, as far as like improvements and making that a really nice location there at Lakeland Boulevard, that is on the future plan. So right now you have to park about a half mile from the water's edge. When the new license is issued, that'll be one of the early implementation projects. We'll actually build a day use area on that side of the diversion pool.
Great, thank you. Committee Member Brandt?
I'll be first to congratulate you when you get that road done. That's wonderful, and I recall that you mentioned that before, that we might get it extra early. For future agendas, I think we should consider state parks being a member of an advisory member of this board, so that they're hopefully here for all our meetings, since our trails all connect and we're all trying to provide recreation for the state as well as our local area. We concentrate more on the local area, they concentrate more on the state, but we need to work together as a group. And so I think we'll discuss adding them and having them at all our meetings for their valuable input.
I think that's a great idea, Committee Member Brandt. You're a big part of the puzzle that's missing in this committee. A lot of our stuff is jurisdictional, and you're in the middle of a lot of it, and we would love to see you guys involved. It's a great idea. I would support that.
Great, so staff can look into moving that forward. Great. Jordan, any other future agenda items? Seeing none, that brings this meeting to adjournment. The next regular quarterly meetings of the Supplemental Benefit Fund Steering Committee will be held on Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, next year at 2 p.m. Thank you all for coming. This meeting is now adjourned.